Hello and welcome to On the Hook, the official podcast of Yellow Pike Media. My name is Rick. I will be your host for the next 30 or 45 minutes. I'm very excited to have you back. Really excited to have our new employee and industry legend with us today. Duncan Stanley, if the name rings a bell, because Duncan's been everywhere. He's done everything. He's done all the roles. Today we're going to talk specifically about his role in, helping create some of the coolest swag kits ever in this industry, which he's had a hand in a lot. He's had a hand in a lot of the ones that we've done. So Duncan, why don't you introduce yourself? Let us know what you're doing here at Yellow Pike, what your role is here, and a little bit of history.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Duncan Stanley. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Yellow Pike Media. This is my 23rd year in the gaming space. I started way back in the year 2000 for a company called Gathering of Developers, which was the brash indie publishing arm of Take-Two. I started there literally in the basement. I was the mail guy. I had a mail cart and I handed out packages and mail to the rest of the staff. Did some tech support. Got kind of dragged along to E3 and doing various other things, and I haven't looked back since. I've worked all over the place, places like Microsoft and Electronic Arts and Deep Silver, usually in community management, publishing, kind of marketing, business development roles, kind of on the business side of things. After leaving Deep Silver, I went into merch, which is what I've been doing for the past few years, up until recently, and all kinds of merch in the gaming space, using my contacts to make everything from T-shirts that people give away to, buying PUBG helmets from Russia and putting the PUBG logo on them. Just everything you can imagine. I've had a hand in making. And it's been a great time. And, now I'm here at Yellow Pike, helping Yellow Pike grow and get all kinds of new business. And it's a lot of fun.
It sounds like we probably all have at least one piece of Duncan swag in a closet somewhere. Yeah. Safe bet.
Yeah. I kind of made a little bit of a name for myself, throwing my own parties at E3 and GDC to drum up business for myself. And I'd buy the best, nicest, softest T-shirts and put like Duncan's GDC party on it, and then give those away at these parties, and people would take them home. And years later, it's been 6 or 7 years since I started, still tell me they're like, it's their favorite shirt, they still sleep in it, it's the best. And I'm like, yeah, that's goes a long way.
Been there, done that. Literally got the T-shirt. I have one of those in my closet, and you're right, they're just really high quality, really comfortable shirts to this day. So let's talk about the process of getting from, hey, I think we want swag, to actually producing swag. I think everybody starts in that space of, we should do this, it'll be cool. But really, you should kind of back up one step and figure out, how much money do we really have? How do you set a solid, practical, realistic budget for swag for something like a trade show? Let's start there.
Yeah, so trade shows are definitely a good starting spot, and those are fairly easy. You need to determine, you need to take a step back and be like, what are we doing? What are the goals? What do we want to do? Do we just want to have a handout at our booth, right? Like just somebody, we want to encourage people to come by the booth. We want it to be cool. So, do you want foot traffic in the booth? Okay, great. That's a reasonable metric. Do you want to give somebody something that they'll wear, a wearable T-shirt, a hat, a backpack that they'll then carry around with them for the rest of the show, take home later? All of these things have, different price points. You can you got to play with that. Do you want to make it fairly rare? Do you want to be like, hey, we're going to do a contest and people got to come by the booth, put in a contest, and we're going to give away something expensive as swag? All of these are, good reasons. They're all totally valid reasons to give away swag. Do you want to throw cheap pins or buttons out into a crowd by the handful for not a lot of money? Sure, you can do that. Just want to have piles of stuff, people just walk by and grab it, or do you want to interact? Have there be an action, like play the game, stand in line for an hour, play the demo. If you do that, you get the T-shirt on the way out. Okay, cool. Like that's totally valid. Just kind of different ways, and all of that comes down to like budget. Do you want to make pins that cost a nickel, a dime? Well, not pins, but buttons that cost a quarter each, and then you can get thousands of buttons to throw out into the crowd, or do you want something nicer like a t-shirt or a hat or a backpack or a poster that requires a higher budget, more art time, more design time? And I think it just comes down to, both the budget in terms of the team's resources and getting that created and managing that, art approvals, or is it just kind of like, what's the cheapest we can do? We don't have a big budget for this. It's coming out of our event budget. We want to put that money into a bigger TV, bigger screen, more floor space. So I think it just comes down to finding a good budget, per person or per item, and going from there.
It feels like you've hit on something I don't know that a lot of people really put in that initial thought process, into their planning. And that's kind of the time sort of slider, where it's like the better and cooler the thing I want to give away, the more time I want someone to invest in me to get it, right? Because then you're also controlling the flow of that. I mean, there's a big difference, like you said, between throwing a whole bunch of pins out into the audience at 20 cents each and, having the t-shirt canning at 15 or 20 and shooting out into the audience. You want something tangible back for that. And yeah, definitely. It's like, you got to sit through the video, or you've got to get some hands-on time and tell me what you thought, or I've seen the really great, hey, 3 or 4 different games. You got to go to all of the stations to get, the brand swag, the good stuff, or you get tokens towards it. So yeah, I think budget is both a function of money and time, right? Is that fair? Is that reasonable?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not just a money thing. I've worked with companies that had basically unlimited budget, but they came to me the week of a trade show. Like, it's Monday and the trade show starts Thursday, and they're like, hey, we need something for our booth to give away. And I'm like, there's not, okay. I'm gonna have to pull some strings, but maybe we can do something. Maybe, like, I better hope. And that's, it doesn't matter that if they're willing to pay $25 a t-shirt to us for it, they might not get it in time. And that's that. And other companies are months ahead ordering stuff. It's in their warehouse. It's being loaded up in the same pallets that are being shipped to the convention center weeks ahead of time. And I think that's it's time is definitely a big factor. It's definitely not.
What is in your opinion a safe lead time? I've got unlimited budget. I want to get some hats. I want some shirts. Trade shows 3 months out.
I liked it when people 2-3 months out from a trade show would say, hey, we're thinking of doing something. What ideas you have? Any particular, supply chain issues I need to worry about? We're thinking hats, maybe t-shirts, maybe some wristbands or pins. Like, what are we looking at? And, I know all those time frames, and the companies that I use usually have pretty short time frames. That's why I use them, because the game industry, usually lead times aren't very long. For pins, I like 4, 5, 6 weeks. For t-shirts, a month is good, because it's always better to do a sample than to make 5,000 t-shirts and find out, oh, we sent you that we were sent the wrong logo and there's nothing we can do. Absolutely has happened. So I like to, I'd say at least 4 weeks out, but we have absolutely done miracles. When that guy called me on Monday at the trade show, we loaded up a van and drove an entire van's worth of t-shirts up to PAX East in Boston from Baltimore overnight, and they were there on the show floor when it opened.
But we prefer not to do that.
Yeah, don't that please don't do that. But it's I'd say at least a month. At least a month for, and the shorter the time, the firmer you have to be on commitment. You can't be like, well, we want a presentation of all the possible options at 3 different price points each, and it's like, we really don't have time for this. Like, you don't have time for this. Like, we can't wait till 2 weeks before the show for you to decide, one way or the other, because we might not have extra larges in stock, at that point, and they won't be ready for another week, and it just creates problems.
Sizes, colors, all of those variables that, hey, I may only have 10 of these if you only tell me on Tuesday for an event on Friday. No, yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things we've been seeing become more and more common is less swag at a show. It still happens. Usually they're the type we were talking about earlier, where now I want you to do something. It's not just a handed out thing. I need you to spend time in my booth. I need you to do something in my booth, experience the game, talk to someone, maybe give us feedback. But something we're starting to see, and we do quite a bit of here at Yellow Pike, are swag boxes for creators and influencers, where it's an entire conceptual piece now, where you're figuring out what goes into the box, what you're hoping to achieve with this box, which I think is always, we would like for them to open this and show it off, in a social post or as part of their stream, or even make, a TikTok or a reel about what's in this and how cool it is. How do you feel that has changed the promotional products industry and in the games industry, and things like, cost of these individual things? T-shirts, $5-6, but now you start talking about these big swag boxes, and they can have anything in them, right? They could have, $100 hardware, $200 hardware,
and more. I've worked on all kinds of projects. Even one time when I was at a previous company, not Yellow Pike, we ended up we were doing half of influencer box, and you guys were doing the other half. And it was interesting to see that. I ran into one of them at the company's office, and one of your employees, and it was like, oh my gosh. Absolutely. Moving to the influencer box is, I think, a way to control on the client side, the gaming publisher side, kind of control more who gets the experience, provided a more curated experience, and you're able to, increase that per person budget significantly, and then hit the target market and be able to really, go much farther with your dollars. Because, if you spend, $20,000 on t-shirts for a big trade show, right, you're giving out thousands of shirts. Great. But if you could take that $20,000 budget and make, 200 kits at $100 each, and everyone's going to take that and goes out to these influencers who post on social media, the kind of, if your goal was awareness and getting kind of, buy-in from creators and influencers, it will go, it can and often does go a lot farther than 4,000 fans at the show. And, you're giving up your fans who are buying the game, getting something from you, but, you're paying, you're buying that awareness, I guess, in a different sense. And so it's, as I said, it's the goal. What's the goal set by the marketing team or the, the team promotions team that's doing this. It's important to figure out what that goal is. And then a different way to do that money is these influencer VIP kits. It also has got exclusivity to it, right? Everybody wants one of these rarer, harder to find, cool jackets, right? That they're way too expensive to just make and give away to anybody who wants one. But you have to be a fan of this game and put some skin in the game and tweet about their game and play their game on stream, and then you can get an influencer kit that way. And I think there's definitely something there.
And there's definitely, like you were saying, the cost differences here. Sure, you can give 4,000 people, t-shirts at a trade show, and that's $20,000, or you go and you get, 100 people, $20,000 worth of really cool stuff that they want to promote for you. I'm thinking, what was it? Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order. Their swag boxes were insane. They had these amazing lightsabers in them. It was unbelievable, the quality of these. But you're right. You're not going to give away 4,000 of those at a trade show. You probably can't even give away 4,000 of the little kid ones where they just kind of, they're a flashlight. Mm-hmm. It's just too much. And I think the main thing I'm hearing here really is, when you think about going from like a trade show piece of swag to like a really, really conceptualized swag box or influencer kit, you're talking about, for the trade show, you've already spent 100,000 or more, millions, depending on how far back you want to go into the trade show miss. And then on top of that expense, you're putting this out there. So you're paying for your presence, and then you're paying to give people who already know you're there something for showing up, which may or may not ever be seen again, because, okay, they're going to wear it out, to their family events or around the house or whatever. And it's not out there, right? There's not this cool thing. Whereas with a swag box, now you get total control. You have total creative control, right? Mm-hmm. You have total control over who you're going to really kind of favor with this item and say, hey, I think you're worthy of having this thing from the brand standpoint, because you've proven to be a fan. You've proven it's as much a reward for, brand loyalty. I don't really want to use that phrase, but it's kind of, how big a fan are you of the franchise or of the brand, or or just a character in the game or whatever, because statues come into play. There's so many things you can put in these boxes, and now it really is a case of it can be that really cool lightsaber where there's really only a few hundred of them made because they were made exclusively for this box, or statuary, or I've got I'm sitting here literally looking at a Call of Duty faceplate for Warzone Pacific, right? Because we did that box, and there was amazing swag in there, and it was all very Pacific themed. You got that vibe. It helps bring the creator in and says, hey, check this out. This is very tropical. I think we had like macadamia nuts and things like that in the kit. It was in a nice piece of well battered world traveled luggage. For those, you can Google them. They're out there. People did exactly what we'd hoped. They put them out there and said, this is really cool. I saw one in an airport. I saw one in LAX. Someone actually used, it's a nice piece of luggage. It's Swiss gear. Why not? Yeah. So yeah, now you're making a whole other statement, right? This isn't just, I'm trying to get, people happy to come to my booth. This is, I'm trying to make a statement. I'm trying to extend that brand connection to the creator through this swag and bring them into both my franchise and the world that I'm trying to immerse them in through this by theming it. What are some of the cooler projects you've worked on that you can talk about either with us or anywhere else, that were just like, they really stuck, where it was like, this went over ridiculously well?
Sure. I won't mention the game, but or the publisher I worked at, but this was a long time ago. And it was a fairly mainstream title. It was, it wasn't a Call of Duty or anything that large, but it had a pretty sizable marketing budget. And one thing that I was involved in very tangentially was we were seeding kind of these influencer kits, and this was almost like early days of they weren't called influencers yet. I think they were all called streamers. Well, it was actually kind of before that. YouTube, I think everyone's just called a YouTuber at this point. We actually didn't seed them to the YouTubers. We seeded these kits to celebrities. And inside this was like the Oscars gift bag of quality and price. It was a leather, like very soft, supple leather duffel bag with the name of the game on the side of it. And then inside of it was like 2 Astro headsets, 2 like limited edition first party controllers, a nice North Face jacket with the logo on it, stuff like that, all put in there. And then that was sent out to these celebrities and basketball players and stuff like that. And the contents were well over $1,000 like of stuff. And there was copies of the magazine. We had it was Inked magazine had done something with the game. And so they were copies of Inked in there. And I think a signed letter by like the development team. And that was just kind of like over the top. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really big, huge. And that was since I was early. I was like, sky's the limit when you're trying to reach out to the right audience on this. Like that was a huge budget. I haven't seen that budget almost ever again. But that was cool to know that that's the kind of stuff that's being done at the high end. And this was the celebrities who are used to very nice things that, gamers might not be. But I think another great project, and I think I can talk about this one, was Cyberpunk 2077. That was the project worked with you guys on unknowingly until the end. What we did is we were contacted by Cyberpunk well in advance by CD Projekt, and they said, hey, we want to do a very cool, we want to do the glasses that they drink in kind of the trailer for the game. It's that really cool angular Italian crystal. Those were like $200 a glass. So I was able to find kind of a replica that was $18 a glass, so they didn't have to blow their budget on real crystal, and kind of set the budget, found what they wanted to have included in it, worked closely with them. They wanted it in a yellow like impact case you see kind of in the movies, right? It's like hard plastic, big chunky clasps, and you take that, and then we put the glass in it. We put a copy of the game. We put the drink card because they make a tequila old fashioned in it. We had transparent cards printed with all of that on it. And it was just really cool, to put that together in this impact case, have it mounted. And then we had all these laser cut decals put on the front and back of the case to look like a case in the game that one of the characters carries around in a scene. So it was a really immersive, they're taking elements from the game. We made them real. We had the glass, laser etched with Afterlife, the name of the bar in the game. And it was just putting all these elements together. And I think on your side, you put together a really cool neon sign.
Yep.
Like that was huge. And putting all that together and then put it into these VIP kits that went out to all these influencers. I think that was one of the coolest, most, it wasn't just a logo slap. It was
right.
The development team, marketing team really put a lot of thought into what they wanted to take from the game and make real. And I thought that was just the coolest one I've worked on.
I remember on that project, especially with the neon thing, one of our core goals, and I feel like this is something that's important to bring up and talk about is, what's going to become of this stuff once you give it to the creator and they open it and they say, oh, this is really cool. If you're spending like $200 on a crystal glass, is that practical? No, there's a whole lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to do that above and beyond it being $200. What's going to happen to it after? It's either going to be, this is a really cool glass cabinet, right? Or it gets broken, crystal's fragile, you don't know what's going to happen to it. So thinking about what's coming next for that item, I think is really important. And I know with that neon piece, we were looking at it from the standpoint of, like behind me and like behind you, people choose to put the cool stuff that they like and they own and they have right there on camera. We won't talk about your sneakers there.
I can hide those. There's my Cyberpunk
but again, it's there you go. the Star Destroyer and the Porsche are good. The sneakers, maybe not so much. We really thought about, is this something somebody's going to take and go, that's cool, and it goes in a box and into storage, or is it going to go behind them on their stream forever, right? Because it's just that cool. And I think that's really one of the major considerations if you're talking about doing a high dollar, influencer kit or streamer kit or YouTuber kit or whatever you want to call it, is have that item, right? Have that one cool thing that the odds are it's never going back in a box. Yeah. It's going to be somewhere. You're going to catch it 6 months from now, still behind them, right? So that you get that extra value because it's endless and consistent branding for whatever company manages to score that shelf space. You mentioned something else that I thought was really interesting. Like, you didn't know we were working on that project as well at the time. And I think that's pretty common. I don't think, like, creators probably don't think about this. The really cool box shows up.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there's not a plan in place from the brand point to kind of pull in all of these different elements. It just sort of happens. But I think one of the most challenging things about doing a lot of these boxes is exactly that, right? It's a question of, I have a cool idea, this company has a cool product, but that person, does something else. And you end up with one package that maybe 3 or 4 different organizations worked on, sometimes completely oblivious to the others. Sometimes we're aware. In the instances where we're all aware of who's working on what, how important is it for those teams to collaborate and coordinate and sort of get everything, together and work together to complete this thing? I mean, you have box dimensions to consider. You have, weight to consider. This has to be shipped at some point. Do you need a forklift to get it in the recipient's house? I'm thinking of places that have sent refrigerators, little mini fridges. All of these things are important considerations. How challenging can that be to coordinate all of those things, Duncan?
Extremely difficult. I had the benefit of being able to be inside the office there at CD Projekt to help box all of that stuff up, because it was COVID was happening. There wasn't a lot of people in the office, and the Venice office wasn't a huge space, and it was packed high to the ceiling with a lot of the other promotional stuff that the Cyberpunk team had been working on that wasn't really going in these packages. They had done, collaborations with Black Milk clothing, for example. And so they had boxes and boxes and boxes of all these really cool Black Milk stuff that we had nothing to do with and weren't necessarily going in these VIP kits we're putting together. And so I had the collaboration was very important because, as you said, box size is important. They're also there can be tiers of kind of these kits. So on some of these larger programs, there might be 1, 2, 3 tiers of who's getting what, right? At the biggest streamers, the biggest influencers might be getting a VIP kit with a cool jacket in it. And then slightly smaller ones, it's the same kit, just without the jacket. And, a smaller tier would be the same thing without, the glass. I don't know. And so you have all these different combination stuff, and all of these different companies are providing those products. And so now we have 3 different box sizes we have to worry about. And, those cool neon kits. We had, they had the list of who they're going down. And I think budget cuts, people get added at the last minute, and the budget gets cut, and we have to worry about shipping and international. Oh, we can't ship this certain product internationally because of one law or another. And it gets pretty complicated. And a lot of times these decisions are being made sort of on the fly, because like, hey, these packages have to go out today or tomorrow in order to hit the embargo time, and this and that are going on. And you really need to, you want to be as coordinated as you can. Is absolutely the best way to do it. I had to run back to that box store 3 times in one day to get different boxes to make it work. And then load up the car multiple times, run over to the FedEx shop and drop that. A lot of trips, a lot of work goes into these kits. But that one was actually very well organized. We had kind of a production line going of making sure everything goes in the box, labeled appropriately, put in the right pile, because certain people wanted Xbox copies or people wanted PC copies, and we had to keep those separate. And
you got to manage all the lists and who's getting what, and what's international, what's national. Yep. I don't think a lot of people think about, especially in North America, people think North America, well, that's 2 countries at the minimum, depending on how you want to, divide up Central America. That can still mean customs. It can mean there are things you can't ship, and it's levels of complexity that are just crazy. And then you have the level of detail that you're trying to put into these things. Because again, you're trying to build an experience in a box, and the box may be of varying sizes. But I think back again to the Pacific theme kit that we did. We went out and we sourced. I don't know if you've ever watched like old movies, actually like a Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they're in these crates and you open them up and they have kind of this shredded material. Yep. We went and sourced that so that it felt like you were getting this shipping crate from the Pacific circa of the 1940s.
Swift, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, exactly. That was all over the office for like 3 months. You can't clean it up. It decides when it wants to leave. But little details like that can really help sell this thing.
We wore cotton gloves to handle the glasses, because we had to take them out of because they come in little cardboard boxes that are unlabeled. So we take those out, have to put it in we had to pick the foam. We actually had to cut it with a knife to cut the foam so the glass would stay in and not move around. And then we noticed immediately when we did that, we're like, oh, we're putting fingerprints on this glass, because it's kind of very nice crystal looking glass. So we're like, oh no, how do we solve this? Like on the spot right there. And someone was like, oh, I have a box of like medical gloves that just had in the office, for COVID. And we're like, great. So we just put those on and clean that first glass, and then had to wear gloves the rest of the day.
Oh, wow.
And change them to keep them clean, so that we weren't put it, because who would, in that unboxing experience, the moment when they open the box, oh, what's in this case? What's in this super cool case? They open it and there's a thumbprint right like on the edge, right? Like that would look bad. People would notice.
Sure.
Let's see it, because they're always looking to nitpick, and you'd be like, ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. Because that'll show up really good on camera, right?
Yeah.
That big thumbprint, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, that's my thumbprint. Great.
That's me.
Awesome. There's no one else to blame for this but me. And those are the little, like, the attention to detail is crazy. That goes into getting these out the door. And it's a lot of work. It's not just throwing things in a box, Like,
and you mentioned working during COVID on some of these, and it brings up a good point, because it's something, we did during COVID for some companies. And that's actually, these don't have to be for third parties, right? These don't have to be for creators or for players or something. You can do a swag box for employees, right? You can do welcome kits. You can create all of these great things. There were companies during, lockdown that were sending sort of like, mental health kind of care packages, and they just had nice things that were normal, right? Like some useful charging kits for your portable devices, and maybe really comfortable socks because we were all at home not wearing shoes, right? So you can really take this concept of a swag box and really just kind of blow it out to anything you need. I know, was it last Christmas? I think it was last Christmas. We sent to a lot of our partners this really nice box. It shows up looking like an aquarium with Yellow the pike on the box, and when you open it up, it was a plush Yellow the pike, right, with a little thank you for being such a great partner card. So there are so many opportunities to do this within this industry that you can really kind of sky's the limit, right? You can do any sort of thing. Do you have a Yellow? I see you turning around looking. Yeah. Oh, you do. He's right there. I had one that was sitting over here, but
yeah,
knocked up. There you go.
Yeah, I think that's just sent to my wife, who is a client of Yellow Pike. So yeah, I mean, this was really cool stuff. Nice little embroidery there. Yeah, like this was cute, and like she got this, and I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I get one?
Well, I can tell you that after.
Thanks, Keith. But I guess you'll just have to hire me. But yeah, no, this was really cool. She liked it. She thought it was really cute. I think it also came with like a bottle of wine, maybe.
I didn't get the wine. I just got the fish. I need to talk to Keith too.
We both, we're both gonna have some words. But yeah, and we've absolutely done employee. I've done employee ones in the past, and luckily the budgets on those tend to be much, much higher. But also the then it becomes, I want specifically these pants for sweatpants, because everyone's wearing sweatpants. I want them to be very nice, which sometimes will be like, in kind of the t-shirt product, the making of stuff, the production side of things, we get wholesale discounts with a lot of major suppliers. But people are like, oh, I want, like North Face sweatpants. Well, those aren't really available wholesale. I mean, maybe some models are, but they're like, oh, I want Lululemon sweatpants. Those aren't available wholesale. We have to buy them at retail pricing, and then it costs us money, charge a markup. And so and sometimes clients are like, yeah, that's fine. We'll pay the substantial markup to get Lululemon sweatpants with our logo on them, because we can't do it through Lululemon because they want 1,000. The minimum to do it from Lululemon is like 1,000 pairs. They're like, oh, we only want 60. We'll pay the markup to get all of our employees this really cool Lululemon design piece of clothing for employees with all the mental health stuff. And during COVID, we were able to include, high quality masks, like really high quality masks, and, designed, hand sanitizer and all of this stuff. We were able to put a lot of that stuff together. And those employee boxes are very cool. And it's the exact same kind of process that goes into the swag boxes for influencers. Usually the lead time was greater, but the budgets were higher, but a lot more attention to detail and control, and we'd send samples to the manager in charge of that project. They more than once. I think it was with Google. We were doing stuff for them. They'd go, hey, we actually, you said this was pretty high quality. We liked it. We actually don't like it as much anymore. We want to, what's the next highest quality thing? We want to kick this up a notch. And it would be like, well, actually your budget's not going up, which is kind of a great thing to hear on my side. When you're trying to, run a business, is how we want to spend more money with you. Okay, great.
Right.
Well, let's make that happen. But you have to spend a lot of time finding a better quality product that's in stock, in the sizes they want, is available, and then try to get them to commit before it runs out of stock.
That brings up, it kind of brings us a little bit full circle to the original problem of time, and making sure that you've got enough time to get the things you want. But it also brings me to our last point: fulfillment partners. Making sure you choose the right fulfillment partner. Mm-hmm. We've had instances here, I'm sure you have too, where you find the fulfillment partner that can do the thing, but not at the volume that you need it done, right? Mm-hmm. You can find really cool stuff on Etsy by fantastic artists, and if you need 3, you're probably okay. If you need 300, how do you find a partner that can do that thing en masse like that, to where you're not sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting, and meanwhile you've got a client saying, hey, date's getting close, where's our proofs, where's our everything? How important is that?
Critically important. I had a client, this was not my finest moment. I'll leave the names out of this one, but we were doing A VIP gift box, or influencer gift box that included a candle, and they wanted, I think, something like 250 candles, custom candles, and they wanted it to be see-through so that when you lit it, the light would come through the key art in a cool way. Great idea, awesome, super cool. So what really have to do is you have to get the candle. The wax has to be the right color, and then you just print a little sticker that's exactly the right dimensions to go around the thing, and then that's it. Sounds pretty reasonable. We reached out to, and we had like 2 months to do this. We realized a bunch of candle makers that are like, no, our minimum for that is 5,000. If you want to do one, go print it yourself. And I was like, okay, well, actually, that's not a terrible idea. We have, we have a conference room. We can just set up a workstation. Buying the blank candles, we couldn't get in the right color. They were just absolutely nothing was even close to the right color of the candle. They wanted like a tropic mango looking thing. Finally found some guy in Florida who was like, yeah, I do this all the time. Turns out he was crazy. He did like half of them and said it was too much work. He wanted to go to his kid's baseball game on Saturday, so he wasn't going to be able to work over the weekend. So he wasn't going to be able to get this done in time for our event. And I'm the production manager. Like, what?
What do you even say? How do you even respond to that? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. So I talked to my boss, and he called him, and the guy's like, and the boss's wife got involved to be like, hey, like, I'll call him. I'll talk to him. Like, we'll see what we can do. Like, what's really the problem here? Does he want more money? Like, what can we do here? Because these were, they're candles. They're not super expensive. It's basically printing a sticker. He has the wax making. Like, he's like, yeah, I'll do 500. Sure. But he didn't, it was bad. It was, eventually I had to go to the client and be like, I'm sorry, I might not be able to get these. I think we're at half right now. I'm not gonna be able to get them. And they asked for his number. They called him. I don't know what was said. He completed the order. Was shipped to them overnight. We, the financials on that were not great for us on this particular order, but it got done, and it was, that guy would know never to do that again. And it's kind of finding that right partner is very important, and you learn that the hard way. Absolutely. Sometimes
it's rough. It's really rough being some poor company's first big order.
Yeah.
And they accept it thinking we can do this and don't understand that ramp up.
Yeah, absolutely. And they didn't get in. They're like, this is not a problem. And, it was bad. And also dealing with the right fulfillment. One time I did something for another company, and actually, no, I think this is the same company. In other words, they gave us another chance, and we had to get approval from it was a licensed game. They reached out to, that they were making stickers and like little lenticular pins, very cool little trinkets, keychains. Basically, they reached out to the licensor. Imagine a huge company, like Fox or whatever. They reached out to that licensor to make sure that this was approved and we weren't just doing something on the side. But we found out that's because that guy who ran this little company used to work at this big licensor and just was causing problems. Basically just wanted to reach out and like put us on the spot. Like and it was like, everyone was like, whoa, what's going on here? Does everyone have approval for this? What's happening here? What's happening there? Like who approved this? And it was all approved. It was all good, to do this, but it created like a enormous headache for everyone involved, just because the guy we chose to make keychains wanted to like make sure we were approved to do this, and took it upon himself to contact the big company to do it.
Oh, wow. That's rough.
It was not good. So stuff happens, and you got to be willing to, play that game and eat some crow in front of your clients, which, that's the business. It was a pain in the butt. So
Duncan, thank you for coming on. This was kind of short notice for you, so I really appreciate it. Lots of great learnings here. I think in summary, know your budget, understand that there's a timeline attached to that budget that's, a spendable commodity as well. And you need to have, time is money and money is time. If you don't have enough money, you better have a lot of time. Know your suppliers, know your vendors, understand all the different things that go into this. It's not, as I'm sure when it shows up at someone's house, it's like, oh, this really cool thing miraculously appeared. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of back and forth to the UPS store and sleepless nights and no crying, because there's no crying in promotional products, right?
Yeah, that's right. I've cried. I absolutely cried once, but yeah,
I'm sure everybody in this industry has had to sit down and just like, I need a minute, right?
Yeah.
But that's part of the gig, and it's still an amazing industry to be a part of. Again, thank you so much. If you need a swag box, reach out to Duncan. He's here now at Yellow Pike Media. Reach out to us. We can put it all together for you. He may know a thing or two.
I'll be there, making sure it's done right and arrives on time, and everyone has a great time. Thanks for having me, Rick. Really appreciate it.
And really appreciate you being here. Thanks, everybody. We will catch you on the next one. In the meantime, if you want to know more about us, you can go to yellowpikemedia.com. Sign up for our newsletter. We'll keep you informed every week or so. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.